Oh, blame the refs again, right? Like, this is the excuse. There's an eternal excuse train for this Cincinnati Bengals team. So following the Ravens loss, the Bengals beat the Giants by 10 points. Joe Burrow got a win over Daniel Jones. By the way, only putting up 17 in that game. Mr. I'm having an MVP season despite how bad my team has been around me. 17 points against the Giants. Next week, you're at the Browns, who have given up on the season already. 21-14 win. Like, okay, cool, you beat the Browns. Like, I'm supposed to celebrate that. I'm supposed to think that your season is reclaimed now. I still got Dan Orlovsky on Get Up every morning talking about how watch out for the Bengals. The Chiefs should be worried about Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's the one quarterback you don't want to see in the playoffs. The problem is Joe Burrow don't want to see Joe Burrow in the playoffs. He ain't doing enough to win. Next game, Bengals-Eagles. Here's your chance to prove yourself. You're at home against a contender out of the NFC. The Eagles beat themselves more than other great teams, so this is your chance to prove yourselves. 20-point loss. How can we not call the season at that point, C-Cat? Am I wrong for, okay, I'll let y'all have y'all's hope. You can dangle your hope and optimism in front of these people like a Twinkie on a treadmill for Peter Griffin. You can do that. But when you get beat by 20 points at home against the Eagles, is it because it wasn't a primetime game that we weren't able to just back up the dump truck and get rid of these guys into the nearest dumpster?
I think Burrow's been good enough to win games a couple of times throughout the season. I think that's a little bit extreme because, no, they didn't literally win last night, but Burrow was good enough to win that football game.
What are you talking about?
428 yards, 4 touchdowns.
What does that mean?
That means
matter.
He put on a clinic as a passer, which is his job.
It absolutely doesn't matter because what matters in this league is wins and losses. Why is it that when Joe Burrow and the Bengals lose, everybody's like, oh, my God, but look at the stats. Look at the stats. Look at the misses. Look at the miss to the tight end. That's a game-winning play right there. He threw it over the dude's head. Either you're going to blame the tight end for not being athletic enough to go in high-pointed, it did touch his hands, or you're going to say, hey, Joe Burrow, your number one skill is ball placement. And on that 2-point conversion, when you needed it to win the game, Zach Taylor you would assume the right call, right? You're on that side of the fence. You got to go for 2 because that's what everybody said about the Bucs.
Yeah, I think you go for 2 there.
I'm glad they went for 2. And if you're going to go for 2, I'm winning or dying or losing or winning. I'm throwing the ball to Jamar Chase. But they didn't. I get it. He was a little bit covered. You threw it to what? Tanner Hudson is the name of the backup tight end?
Not Gesicki.
Not even Gesicki. You throw it to Tanner Hudson. The play was there. The play was there for Tanner Hudson to score that play. Everybody keeps trying to complain about a hold on Gesicki, which didn't happen. He tried to flop. You're not going to flop and get a call on a 2-point conversion with the game on the line like that. Everybody else is complaining about, Joe Burrow got hit in the face mask after he threw it. That didn't even affect the play. Joe Burrow missed on the throw to Tanner Hudson. He missed. He could have won the game right there. Then I would have given credence to, he made enough plays to win. No, he made enough plays to make his stats look really good. And half of those plays was throwing the ball to maybe one of the best receivers we've ever seen, especially after the catch. Half of those plays were that. I mean, am I lying? It's a smart move. I'm just saying, like, his stats looked good. Cute. Win the damn football game. If your only wins are against teams that are 2-7 right now and you lost to the Patriots.
So how many quarterbacks, or rather, what's the worst quarterback in the NFL that you would have above Joe Burrow if you're throwing so much dirt on his grave? Because
I'm not throwing dirt on Joe Burrow's grave, though. I think
on their playoff hopes, they seem to be dead right now. They seem to be dead to this morning.
Joe Burrow is closer to Jared Goff than he is the elite quarterbacks of this league.
So he's better than Jared Goff.
People would assume so, right? Like, you would think I want Joe Burrow over Jared Goff. That's what you would say, right?
Yeah, I would say.
And honestly, I'm starting to raise a question about that. Why? Why would you want Joe Burrow over Jared Goff? Today, right now, give me Jared Goff.
We saw Joe Burrow run for his life early in his career as signal caller for the Bengals, right? That was a thing where he had no protection, and he still made it happen. I know we had Jamar Chase. I know we had T. Higgins, but he had no protection back there.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw Joe Burrow kind of carry that team to a Super Bowl berth. I think with Jared Goff, it was not the same. I think that he was supported with his offensive line, and he had the weapons, and he had a pass-rushing defense. Bengals, we saw them just fold in the second half. Did they give anything other than a touchdown drive to the Ravens in the second half of last night's game?
If you look at And I hear you, it looked better, right? People like the style of play of Joe Burrow better because he runs a little bit more. It's a little prettier. He has a little bit more swagger. The ego is there. The post-game press conferences are nicer. You compare career accolades and statistics, Joe Burrow to Jared Goff. Like, it's not even there's an argument to be made. Jared Goff is better. Jared Goff has been better in this football league. Joe Burrow's career achievement is beating Patrick Mahomes a few times. That's his whole thing. Still hanging his hat on that. By the way, there was a tweet somebody sent out, a Chiefs fan earlier today that I saw, talking about when they were parading around, calling it Burrowhead Stadium. They had this big picture in the snow. It was real cute. Since the Bengals coined the phrase Burrowhead, referring to Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs' home stadium, they are 13-15 with a 7-7 record at home and an 0-3 record at Kansas City. The Bengals had a run to the Super Bowl that was worth the hype. I was enamored with it too. It was a great run. It was fun. It was really cute. It was nice. They're not getting back there anytime soon. They are in a tier below the real AFC contenders, and they will be in the near future as well, because what they're going to pay Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and also not surrounding Joe Burrow with more talent on the offensive side and having to lose all of those defenders. Like, people blame the defense. I blame the contract. The Bengals are notoriously a cheap organization, and when you have to pay Joe Burrow that kind of money and you're going to have to pay Jamar Chase, there's going to be sacrifices on the other side. So now you're going to look at Joe and say, hey, win us a shootout. And he hasn't been able to do that. Shootout with the Commanders, couldn't do it. Commanders defense stinks too. Why didn't he win that game? Only put up 17 against the Eagles. We've seen the Eagles defense get taken advantage of.
But did Joe Burrow fumble the football that gave the Ravens all that momentum straight back? It was 21-7. If Chase Brown, I believe, was the running back who fumbled the football, doesn't drop the ball, I think we have a different result in that game.
Right. And if the Ravens defender, Brandon Stevens, doesn't, not get his second foot down on that end zone interception that Joe Burrow threw, it's a different game as well. We can go back and nitpick between all of these different plays that went one way or the other, and we could point blame. But here's the thing. If I told you before the game, though, C-Cat, the Ravens a 6-point favorite. If I tell you before the game as a Bengals fan, you're going to have a 2-point conversion down by 1 with 30 seconds left for a chance to win. You take that.
If I'm a Bengals fan, I actually don't.
You don't
I think
take
they
that?
think they're a better football team.
That's their problem. They're
I truly
delusional.
think the Bengals are equal. They believe that they are equal with the Ravens as far as the AFC North goes.
Okay, so here's my question too then. What have they shown us this year to prove that? What have the Bengals done this year that tells me they're a good football team? Because there's not one game, one data point, one thing other than Joe Burrow has nice numbers that anybody can say that tells me this is a good, competent, competitive, contending football team.
Yeah, that's not much. It's got a lot of reputation they're hanging on for the AFC North crown.
And that's my whole thing here is we're giving them way too much credit for things they did more than 2 years ago now. And
So are we going to look at the Bengals 5 years from now like we looked at the Panthers after their run to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That's a comparable right there?
One-hit wonders, man. Because here's the problem. It's not even a knock against Joe Burrow. I'm not saying that it's all his fault. I think he's a very, very good. He's a great football player. I just think I'm looking at the AFC now. And it's like, well, there's better guys. It's not his fault that there's better guys, but there are. In better ecosystems, with better organizations, with better coaches. So if they're going to pay you that kind of franchise quarterback money and we're going to credit you for turning around the Bengals and you are this huge difference maker, then be in that conversation. Like, nobody can replicate what Lamar Jackson did last night. Nobody can.
No, it's something we haven't seen on a football field.
You can't touch that. Even Patrick Mahomes can't do the things that Lamar Jackson can do. I say this about Lamar. Lamar Jackson at his best is the best quarterback ever. Lamar Jackson, when he's hitting, when he's firing, when he's like playing at his peak, nobody can touch what Lamar Jackson can do because he literally can do things no one else can even dream of. The difference is the reason why he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. He might be almost like the best talent at it, but he's not better is he doesn't consistently do that. You're going to get peak performances and good enough performances to win out of Patrick Mahomes more consistently than the ups and downs that sometimes comes with Lamar Jackson. That's the biggest difference between the two.